We're just gonna chop a lot off the top.
A lot?
Pretty much at the knuckle.
At the knuckle, so probably like fingerling?
Yeah.
Alright, bad, bro. And just like the mid-drop fade?
Yeah.
Alright, man. I'm trying something new, doing like a little voiceover, a little barber tutorial. My boy came in, as you saw, asked for a little mid-fade, a little finger length on the top, a little come-over action. Right now, I'm saturating the hair. You see me, that's my hands, that's my arms, wetting the hair. You want to make sure the hair is wet. If it gets wet too, it's cool. You know, you got to make sure it just makes it easier to, you know, comb through, part, cut the hair and stuff like that. So right now I'm just prepping my work area, making sure all the hair is laid, you know, in the right direction. And, you know, let's get into it. You know, we start cutting the hair in it. Look. Mink. So like he said, he want knuckle length, finger length for barbers. And, you know, just take your time, making sure your parts are nice and grabbing all the hair and whatnot. Yeah, what I like to do is once I make the first initial cut, I like to slide the comb like halfway through the first guideline in the hair and pull it back to the existing hair that hasn't been cut yet. So you're already like pulling back and cutting. So there's no like getting lost really. Just follow that same guideline, drop the whole head. And since he's getting a comb over, I like to kind of angle my cuts. You know, as you see right here, I like to rest my hand on the side of his cranium, and I just, you know, see where the hair should lay. He wanted it pretty short, so you want to make sure none of the hairs are like too short because they'll just stick up, and you don't want that happening, especially if they don't put no product in it. As you see here, I'm fixing that little cowlick in the back. You know, you want to make sure all the hair is laid down perfectly. All right, so on this side of his head, I like to stand like in front of them. I don't know why, it just works easier for me. And just kind of like trim it, you know, so it's not too much hair like, you know, being thrown over. It just kind of looks more symmetrical. Anybody that comes in, asks for a comb over, I always stand in front of them and see which hairs poke out on the other side. Right now I'm doing like a little bit of cleanup work, making sure all the hairs, there's no super long hairs just sticking out. And that's pretty much it for the shear work part for the little comb over he asked for. Now we doing the 3 close to the bulk, you know, to kind of set the foundation of the fade. You know, it's a mid-drop fade, so you want to kind of angle it down as you're going, bringing the debulking down below his occipital bone. Occipital bone. All right, Chris. All right, so you want to kind of repeat the same step on the other side. As you can see, you know, you're just kind of just creating like a foundation where you're going to put the haircut. And now I like to set my ball line like where his eye is to kind of keep it symmetrical on each side. So there's no rush in this part. You know, you want to try to make this guideline as neat as possible. Follow what your client says. High fade, mid drop fade, low fade, and you just want to take your time. These trimmers that I'm using too, they're not very hard or sharp, I should say. They're not going to leave a real harsh guideline to take out at the end. Then you want to remove all the hair that's left under that guideline. Make sure you get all the hair. You don't want no little strands of hair behind the ear. You don't want none of that. All right, so your first step with the fade, it's a half guard, lever closed, and I'm just like flicking up the line about like 1/2 inch. I'm not really setting it in real hard, but you know, I'm making it prominent.
Nice and silky smooth.
Making sure the guideline is nice and symmetrical, nice and straight. You know, just working at it. All right, now I put the lever all the way open and go up another 1/2 inch. So it'd be like a full inch of the half guard closed and then half guard open. Doing the same step, just kind of flicking up, not creating too much of a harsh guideline, but making it prominent. You always want to have this like mental picture of like how your guidelines are set. You're not just going based off of the haircut. Of course you want to go based off the haircut, but you want to have like a mental picture of how the haircut already looks, so you're not like all over the place with your guidelines and your detailing work. And if you got to go over multiple times, this ain't a race. You know what I mean? You just got to make sure everything's nice and neat. All right, lever all the way open. I'm just kind of bumping that guideline, that line in the middle that I created with the lever open. I'm just kind of bumping it up, not digging in too much. I don't really dig in with my guidelines until it gets to like the 1.5 guard, but right now I'm just kind of like, you know, taking that line a little bit up, little by little, not really taking it all the way up, just kind of like softening the transition. This part doesn't really take that long, and then a lever all the way closed, bumping up that line halfway, just taking out that first initial guideline that I set in with the half guard all the way closed. You want to take your time right here, you know, because this is where the blurriness comes in. Then you want to hit that hole halfway. You want to bump it up the rest of the line, and this should take out the whole line and be ready for the next step. Like I said, you're gonna see me do like lever play with this part. You just kind of want to like get out all the dark spots you see, and just making sure you have a smooth transition. And when cutting hair, man, I think it's kind of like shooting a jump shot. You know, as long as it goes in, it goes in. There's no wrong or right ways to cut hair. So, you know, I like to pull different techniques from different people to make sure I cut, you know, my way. You know, the way I cut is from like multiple different people I used to watch when I first started barbering. So, yeah, ain't no wrong or right way to cut hair, man. As long as it's blurry and your client likes it, you straight. All right, what you want to do now is you want to half guard all the way closed, and you want to flick up that next guideline about 1/2 inch. Just keeping it consistent. If you got to go over multiple times, that's what you got to do to make sure you get all the hairs on one length. You know, just keeping it symmetrical. You know, you want your haircut to be neat. All right, this ain't a race. You want your client to get out the chair and be like, "This is the best haircut I had," even though you cut him like a couple weeks ago and he said the same thing. But like, it's all that matters. You feel me? All right, so now I got the lever all the way open. And now I'm kind of like digging in, right? Like I'm kind of like finishing it off, if that makes sense, into the rest of the bulk of the hair. It looks kind of weird right now, like there's no blend, but once you throw that half guard on and do that corner work, shit, the fade gonna come to life. So you just guys, you know, trust the process, be consistent. All right, this is when the magic happens. You want to slap on the half guard, lever all the way open, and just use the corner of your blade to kind of bump up that dark line that you see in the middle that you created with the 1.5 closed, and just bump it up like a little bit. You don't want to take it all the way. You don't want to dig in all the way. You just kind of want to like erase the line little by little, because you're going to come behind it again, lever closed, and get the rest out of there with the corners as well. As I do right here, lever all the way closed now. And that little faint line that you see that you created whenever you bumped up that line with the half guard lever open, you just kind of want to work under it. You don't ever want to go above it. Just kind of stay under it. Now you see me just kind of playing with the lever, getting the line out completely now. I like to use only the corner of the blade. Sometimes I turn the clipper all the way to the side and use the corner of the blade like it does something. I like to feel like it does something. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of detailing the fade. You know, lever playing, you know, just making sure everything's transitions nice and smoothly into the bulk. As you can see, there still is kind of like a harsh dark line like near the top of the bulk, but you're gonna get that later with your thinning shears. Right now I'm just kind of focusing on below that super dark line right there, and making sure it's just, you know, nice smooth transition. Shit, I know some people that will finish this part right here and call it a haircut, but for my clients, I like to go a little bit above and beyond. And plus, I'm kind of like that as a person. You don't want to think your haircuts. You can over detail your haircuts and then they just come out looking a little weird. But for the sake of the video, I kind of took a little extra time to kind of like, making sure it's good. You see me looking in the mirror, making sure I see any dark spots and different perspectives. You really want to work the back of the hair because the back of the haircut is usually the hardest to blend out because of the density of the hair. But, you know, stay consistent, trust your eye, and then, just keep working at it. More detail work with no guard this time. You don't ever want to take that no guard all the way up, like higher. You just want to kind of stay where you first set that first guideline. All right, to finish off the transition, you want to use thinning shears. Just want to soften the transition. You're going to see me kind of do like point cutting in the fade with the thinning shears. I just feel like for me, just kind of, there you go. It just kind of like makes more sense to me. And if I feel like it doesn't act as a guard, so I don't need to like be careful. You do need to be careful. You don't want to cut too much, but the thinning shears kind of puts like training wheels on how much hair you take off. Like I said before, you never want to rush your haircut. You just want to make sure, getting all the different angles, different perspectives. People can cut hair a lot quicker than some other barbers, but I feel like as long as your client's good and likes the haircut, that's really all that matters, keep them coming back. I just added like point cutting the fade to my bag, to my arsenal and barbering, and it really like separated me from like my past cuts. It literally brings together the whole fade. I feel like it makes it all look like one whole haircut instead of like the fade and then the top of the hair. So yeah, you always want to detail your work, man. There we go. Now the fade's all coming together now, just tying everything in the back together. All right, now I'm prepping the hairline, making sure there's no dirt, debris on that hoe. You want to make sure it's clean whenever you line it up because, you're pushing everything to the hairline, all the hair, dirt, the sweat that they had throughout the day. You want to make sure you get that all off so whenever you do the lineup, it just comes out crispy and leaves that little white ash line. I like to spray some hairspray, just adds a little bit more extra hold on everything and gives that extra little white line too as well. All right, now I'm gonna style the hair. I'm gonna wet it, put some gel in it, comb it over so all the hairs that I'm not gonna line up can go into the style of the haircut. Doing a bit of shear work whenever I combed the hair down. There was a little weight line. Just getting it out. It wasn't a lot. All right, time to bring the haircut all together. I like to flip my trimmer kind of like that, as you see, to do the right side of his lineup. I don't know, I just feel like it gives me more of a precise feel to it. And you don't want to rush this part at all, man. You want to make sure everything's nice and symmetrical. This is probably the most tedious part of the haircut, because once you get everything down as far as fading, you can kind of just do that real quick, and then this part is, what brings it all together. Some people like to start the C-cup. Some people like to start at the vertical bar. Me personally, I feel like it doesn't matter because, as long as you get it straight, it's straight. You feel me?
Nice and silky smooth.
You want to repeat the same exact process on the other side, making sure it's nice and symmetrical. What I like to do, I like to stand in front of my client, making sure their C cups are at the, same exact length, and, just go from there. No need to rush this part at all of the haircut. Sometimes when it comes to like comb overs, some people don't line up the front, because my client has that widow's peak and whatnot. But he wanted it lined up just like in the corners. But I don't recommend lining up widow's peaks because the second day is going to grow back and it's going to look like some dirts on your forehead. So embrace that peak, man. Embrace that peak. All right, on one side of the lineup, I saw there was a bit overhang of hair. And so I just used, as you saw, I just used my comb to kind of cut off the excess of hair to line up the rest of the hair. It just comes out way sharper that way.
Nice and silky smooth.
To finish off the cut, you want to use the foil shavers, get it down to the skin so that fade could pop. Time for that razor work. Go back to barber school for this. Pull the skin the opposite direction and bring that razor to that lineup. You don't want to bring a bunch of hair to the lineup. You just kind of want to stay where the lineup is and just, make sure that shit crispy. And me, I don't really use shaving gel unless it's like a design and it's like a super thick place I need to, make bald. But, I have a real light hand when it comes to the razor, so I don't get any, problems with irritation of the skin or cuts or anything like that. Now we just putting the final touches on the cut, wrapping up the cut. I put enhancements just, so it would give that picture perfect quality.
Nice and silky smooth.